DeadHatz. Dos.
Hey everybody, DeadHatz here, and today we're going to talk about whether Meet Your Maker is a dead game. I've seen a lot of the player base kind of complaining, saying that Meet Your Maker is a dead game, and I don't think that's true. If you go by the player base numbers, you could certainly argue that it's a dying game, but I hardly say a dead game. Now, however, is Meet Your Maker a dying game? And I honestly don't think it's dying. While it certainly drops in just numbers, I think if it's best if we just take a step back and kind of analyze the whole situation. I think the game is more at a standstill point. This next update will maybe make or break the game and see if it does flop or not, but I hardly think the game is dead. The number one complaint I see about the game is a lack of content. And while Meet Your Maker is a live service game, and I'm not saying this is justification but explanation, something that, gamers don't like, but it's just how things are, is that live service games tend to evolve over time. Meet Your Maker is very early in its status, and I think in a year it'll be at a really good spot if this next update does have a revival of sorts. And, we've seen comeback stories before, such as with Sea of Thieves. For those of you that may have played that, it launched with mediocre amount of content, but right now it's honestly a really good spot with plenty of content for players to play. And I don't think Meet Your Maker is even that offensive as, for example, Sea of Thieves was, because it's not even charging a $60 to $70 price tag with it. I don't think it justifies still, the small amount of content that was in the game on launch, but I do think it is at least a little less offensive in that regard. But I honestly think that the game itself is in a decent spot. Not the player base, but the game. If the number one issue for your game is that players want more content, it means there's still people who are interested in playing the game, and they just want to come back after more content, as opposed to some games that are releasing where the coding is bad and the game itself is broken, or there's fundamental flaws in how the game is made that's causing it to die. Those are problems that are incredibly hard to fix and a lot of times don't even get fixed, whereas Meet Your Maker's main issue is that people want to play it, they just want more to play with. And I think that is a good problem to have per se. Still a problem, but at least it's better than that of the game is unplayable. And I think it'd be a lot easier to add more content in the game than to go back and, rewrite code that may be breaking the game. Because I think for the most part, the game is pretty stable and it plays well. It just, we need more toys to play with in this game. And another thing of note is I've seen people argue that Behavior doesn't even care that their game is dying. They don't love the community. I think that is a really dumb take. Number one, Meet Your Behavior paid millions of dollars probably to create this game, so I hardly think they don't care. For someone to spend millions of dollars and then I don't even think they made it all back, they either can abandon the game now, which they haven't, they're still updating it and plan to do the Dredge Short update, or they can add more content and put more money in the game in hopes of making money back. So to say that Behavior doesn't care is kind of ridiculous, as they have been listening to the community, and I think one of the biggest proponents of that is this new update they just added, the Known Issues board. For those of you that may not have seen it, in my 1 month later video, I said something they need to fix is their transparency. There's a time when there was a glitch in the game that we weren't sure if they even knew about, and people were spamming them with it until they finally let out hey, we know this exists, you guys can stop telling us now. And I think Known Issues board would really help with situations like that, so at least people can know that, hey, Behavior's aware of this issue and they're working on it, and that way they know they can fix it. And to argue that they don't care about the game when they're actively doing stuff that listens to the community, I think is a little bit of a dumb take in my opinion. And then for another note, people are wondering why is it taking so long to add content? Why did they decide to release this huge content 2 months after the game's release? I think a lot of people don't realize that when you release a game, the first 2 months for that game is going to be bug fixes and adding and taking away stuff that people may like in the game. For example, there was that corrosive cube glitch. That's something that the community had to find out for them to address, and I think them taking the first 2 months to kind of worry about game balance or bug fixes was pretty smart, but it also is an explanation on why they're waiting so long to add the content after release. And so people who are complaining like, what's taking so long? I think they need to realize that the game just came out, so they need to address any core issues that were found right after release of the game. So the question is, do I think Meet Your Maker is a dying or dead game? I would hardly argue that it is. Just because of the fact that the community it does have right now is very much still enjoying the game. And a majority of the reason people quit is the lack of content, which is something that can easily be added, later on over time. Obviously, I would have preferred to release some more content, but that's just the nature of these live service games. So if you just go by the player count and listen to the people who are trying to scare you, yeah, you might believe that the game is dying, but if you really look at, take a step back and look at what exactly is the issue that needs fixing, I think the game is more of at a standstill. We need more time to see if it is a dying or dead game. As for them right now, I think people are just kind of waiting for this new update. So after this update, I think we'll better be able to see on whether or not the game is truly doomed to fail or not. I think people are just getting a little impatient with it. But yeah, that's it for today. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. If you think I was wrong at any point, please do let me know. I do like discussing with you guys. I like it when people counter argue my points, because it actually has me challenging my thoughts on the matter. If I go unchallenged, then I just end up creating an echo chamber when I really want is, discussion on the topics at hand. All right, thank you guys.
Subscribe to DeadHatz or you'll die tomorrow.